Hi, this is David with EV World News. We bring the latest news on electric vehicles and green energy and how it relates to the stock market. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about a bus company called Proterra and why they went bankrupt. And this is kind of an interesting experiment in the electric vehicle space. So, the largest maker of electric vehicles, or I should say, of electric buses in the US, filed for bankruptcy last week. A move blamed on new product lines failing to overcome the high costs of e-bus manufacturing. Now, I live in Nebraska. Buses aren't a real common thing here, so it's a little bit harder for me to appreciate this. To me, it seems like it's not necessarily the best niche necessarily to be in the EV space or any automotive space for that matter. Proterra's demise points to another issue. Even with unprecedented levels of government support and customer interests, some sectors cannot compete against top manufacturers in China. The company will continue operations as normal for now while it uses bankruptcy proceedings to either sell off or recapitalize the different sections of its business. So, anyways, buses make a good candidate for electrification because they run on a predictable pattern. So it's really easy to see how they're being used. The fuel consumption of traditional buses make the lifetime ownership cost of an e-bus competitive and, depending on state and local subsidies, even cheaper than internal combustion engines. They have drawbacks as a business, so buses are typically customized for each customer, limiting some of the automation in the process and some of the factory efficiency. They're ordered in batches when a city gets a new budget, leading to inconsistent production schedules. And they take a long time to build, 12 to 18 months from contract signing to when a bus is delivered and paid for. And in Proterra's case, it's made them vulnerable to having their margins eaten away by inflation. So, we've had a period of time here where inflation's been rampant for the last couple of years that hasn't really helped out. Now, here, chart from semaphore.com talking about US and Canada sales of electric and fuel cell buses by year. So here are Proterra's in the blue, and the brown is the rest of the market. See, Proterra's nickel-based battery chemistry was more expensive than the lithium batteries used by most of its competitors. And one of the nice things about dealing with the nickel, they're able to source that domestically. And this is one of the issues that people bring up all the time in the electric vehicle space, is that everything is sourced from China. Well, they've been avoiding this, trying to do all of this domestically, and they've sort of been punished for doing that because they can't compete with the newer battery technology. Its earnings report indicates the company spent $6.5 million more on materials for its products in the first quarter than the revenue those products generated. And total domestic market for buses, for 750 e-buses were sold in the US and Canada in 2022. The company reported a loss of $250 million in the first quarter of this year, 5 times more than the same quarter last year, and laid off 300 staff in January. Here's our electric bus makers: BYD out of China, Daimler, but this is US and Canadian sales. NFI, Proterra came in fourth. And here we have a couple of other players in there. High production costs are universal for EV makers, from the tiniest startup to Ford and GM. BYD has addressed this problem through unparalleled economies of scale and by vertically integrating its supply chain. Tesla has cultivated a profitable side hustle and dominating the charging network. Tesla also makes a lot of money by selling data, so it's a huge part of their profit. In Proterra's case, new business lines that launched over the last few years in batteries, charging stations, and electric drivetrains could have had a similar effect in cash flow. In addition to $10 million in forgiven pandemic stimulus loans the company accepted in 2020. According to the company's bankruptcy, they held it back. The company wrote that its bus business requires a large amount of working capital, but that potential investors more interested in the new sideline businesses and not inclined to invest in the company if it meant being exposed to losses from the bus division. If Proterra's bus division can survive the bankruptcy either on its own, acquired by a rival, or another way, it may be a stronger position for its next iteration. Demand for commercial e-vehicles, school buses, which is a market Proterra never entered, And last mile delivery vehicles is rapidly growing as more municipalities and retailers like Amazon push to eliminate their transportation emissions. The Inflation Reduction Act came too little late, but does offer a tax credit of up to $40,000 for buyers of electric commercial vehicles. It's just poor timing. With the Olympics in LA in 2028, I hope we will see Proterra restructure and a lot of their buses moving towards athletes and visitors around. Some of the issue here is whether we get the mass adoption of buses, which, in theory is a very efficient transportation. If there has to be more demand for buses, and we'll see where this goes. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you can, please like and subscribe to support our channel and help us with the algorithms to make sure that this gets seen more.